everybody and welcome back to the channel. Thanks to my friend Toyzone, we're going to be taking an early look at this year's Transformers Pulsecon exclusive, that being the War for Cybertron trilogy, Covert Agent Ravage, Decepticon Forever Ravage, a 2-pack which, to be honest with you, I don't think any of us really expected. And when we began to get in-hand images of this, I truly was blown away, not only of the presentation of the box art, but the simple fact that we were actually getting a Covert Agent Ravage in 2021. I just was not expecting this guy at all. There were no leaked listings. I don't believe that he was even rumoured. So to actually get this guy in hand, honestly, I'm super excited to actually take a look at the figure. Now, he is a Pulsecon exclusive, which has essentially just replaced San Diego Comic-Con, so it's a very similar situation to what we saw last year with the Quintesson Pit of Judgment set, so I do think that he's going to be quite a rare figure. So for those of you who do get the opportunity to pick him up and you are a Beast Wars fan, I definitely wouldn't pass this off. Now, taking a quick look here at the packaging, you can see the presentation is fantastic, as it appears to be with all of these Pulsecon exclusives. You can see we've got Covert Agent Ravage here, as well as the G1 Retro reissue. As we spin around here to the side of the box, we've got an awesome image there of the character with the Predacon insignia, and here at the back we've got some awesome artwork of Ravage converting into the cassette tape, much like we actually saw in the show. As we take a look here at this side of the pack, you can see how we've got a very brief bio based on the story in which Covert Agent Ravage does appear in, and of course we've got his signature quote, that being Decepticons Forever, as of course this guy really doesn't like the Predacons nor the Maximals all that much. He's very loyal to the G1 Megatron, and for those of you who have watched the story, he's actually a really interesting character. So without further ado, let's crack this set open and see what awaits us inside. And so here we have Covert Agent Ravage cracked open and out of the packaging and actually looking fantastic. This set is pretty awesome. Now, before we take a look at the figures themselves, I first of all want to go over the box art that we actually get. This is so cool. For those of you who have actually watched the episode, you guys will know that this is directly based on Covert Agent Ravage's ship, which is a really nice attention to detail, and we've even got the tiny little cassette slot that he does insert himself into in the actual series, which is really awesome. You can see the graphic detailing on that is superb, fantastic artwork, and will no doubt look excellent on display. We can in fact actually take the G1 reissue of Ravage and place it here into the slot, which is just so awesome. And one thing that I absolutely love about this particular insert is, unlike the Pit of Judgment where you really had to carefully cut the sellotape, cut the plastic away to actually get to the cardboard insert, here with this particular release there is no tape attached at all. You simply just take it out the packet, the plastic does remove, and it just completely preserved this particular cardboard segment, which I think is awesome. And the actual figure himself looks fantastic when being posed and displayed within this. I'll be sure to post some images throughout this review so that you guys can really see just how cool the figure looks actually in this diorama. But this is something that I'm really hoping both Hasbro and Takara stick with going forwards with some of these Pulsecon exclusives. This is so cool. But actually taking a look at the figures themselves, we shall begin firstly by taking a look here at the G1 Retro reissue of Ravage. Now, this is actually my first time handling the mold, and I have got to be honest and say that some of the joints are incredibly loose. You can see here the toes really don't want to stay tabbed in, which is slightly unfortunate, but considering how old this particular mold is, I actually think it's held up really nicely. Now, upon getting out the packaging, I was super surprised to see that this does in fact have die-cast in it, which is really awesome. And you can see the actual tampo detailing that's been applied to this looks excellent. I do believe the original version was stickers, don't hold me to that, but I'm pretty certain it was. So to see it actually tampo graphed on here is excellent, and you can see the paintwork has come out really precisely. And despite this being a toy from the 80s, I actually think this creates for quite a convincing cassette tape. You can see some fantastic detailing here on the back, but actually getting down to transformation, you just want to flip the tail section here out, take the head, pull this forwards. We can then take the hind legs and just pull them back just like so. Take the front ones, pull these forwards as well, and then it's really up to your own personal preference how you decide to manipulate these particular segments. But that is essentially the G1 Ravage fully transformed up into his robot form, and actually looking not too bad once again for an 80s figure. In some ways this actually looks a little better than the Siege Ravage, which is definitely saying something considering that this is over 35 years old. We do also get some accessories for this guy, such as these super awesome chromed out missiles, so these can just insert into these tiny little circular sections. So just peg one in there, of course, take this one and snap that into place, and I think the presentation on these looks excellent. You can see super reflective chrome, really does look awesome. And for those of you like me who've never picked up a G1 Ravage, this is going to be a super fun figure to actually get your hands on. I think that this has turned out so much better than I was expecting. Sadly, he doesn't stand the best. It does take quite a bit of patience to actually get him to stand, considering how flat he is. You can see how he's really not got much depth to him, but just as a display piece, especially in that cassette tape mode, I think he looks awesome. But turning to the main event himself, here we've got the Beast Wars Covert Agent Ravage, and he's actually looking superb. Now, the main basis for this is the deluxe class Kingdom Cheetor, so you will see a lot of reuse, but I was actually quite surprised to see how much engineering has actually gone into this guy. He is a little more complex than Cheetor, and actually is a little more heftier. He's more along the lines of, I would say, a small Voyager in regards to how he weighs. But taking a look at the detail, the face sculpt looks awesome. Now, something that is slightly different when in comparison to how he appeared on the show is that they have applied fur here to the actual face sculpt. Personally, I don't necessarily have too much of an issue with this. I think the detailing on this looks impeccable, especially the amazing attention to detail here for the teeth as well as the tongue. This is something that I don't believe on a deluxe Beast figure we have seen as of yet. Cheetor's face definitely wasn't painted in Beast form, but it's awesome to see that all of the teeth have been individually sculpted as well as painted here, and you can even see the minute detail of the tongue, and this can in fact open and close, which is just super awesome. You can see the really cool beady red eyes as well as this white section here at the top, which has been picked out really nicely. You can see some nice sculpt work where the ears are concerned, and the actual chest piece as well is by far my favorite aspect of this figure. I think this looks awesome, exactly how it did on the show, and you can see the shade of black they've used I think looks excellent. The gold, the silver here for the belt as well as that red section all looks super cool. The arms are in fact a complete brand new sculpt, so you can see we've got the Predacon insignia here at the top as well as a really nice metallic silver, and you can see that black for the forearms. If I just remove one of the guns, you can see how the wrists are in fact also a complete brand new sculpt. They are different when in comparison to Cheetor, but the sculpt work is very similar to Cheetor. The thighs too are also a complete new sculpt, so you can see how they've got this silvery gunmetal applied as well as this really awesome golden detailing. But from the knees down, this is just completely reused from Cheetor, so there is no new aspect here. It's merely just been cast out of a slightly different colour, and I really wish that perhaps they could have used the engineering taken from Voyager Tigertron in really getting these sections to compress a little more into the shins, but it's not too bad. I just wish that was something they could have maybe applied. And as we spin around here to the back, he is slightly kibbly, but honestly, it's nothing that we haven't come to expect from these Beast characters. You can see the legs of the Jaguar mode stored on the back as well as the tail, which is articulated, so you can have it lowered or raised depending on your preference. Now, in regards to articulation, this actually really surprised me. So for the head, it is on a ball joint, so it can look left to right as well as up and down very slightly. It can't really tilt side to side, sadly. We can open and close the mouth, which is super awesome. The arms can rotate the full 360 as well as hinge out to the sides to a terrific degree. We get a full rotation here at the actual bicep, albeit on a very stiff joint, almost too stiff if I'm being completely honest. We get a double joint here at the elbow due to transformation, full wrist rotation as well as a full waist rotation, which is really cool. The legs can kick forwards that far as well as back to that far, although are slightly hindered due to the nature of the design. He can kick out to the sides, full rotation here at the thigh, once again very stiff despite some of these joints being a carryover. Everything is really tight, which is great. The knee can bend to 90, and here for the foot it can pivot forwards and backwards as well as of course rock side to side. So overall, in regards to an updated War for Cybertron version of Covert Agent Ravage, this guy's actually turned out really nicely. Now, in regards to accessories, he does come with two blasters, both of which I've got to say have been detailed and sculpted really well. You can see here that much like Ravage themselves, they've been cast out of this very nice black plastic. However, the tips have been completely decked out in a metallic silver, and you can see the sculpt work isn't too bad on these particular pieces either. I think these look really well done and can of course be inserted into both of his hands, much like we saw on the show. So you can have him in pursuit of Beast Megatron or just some of the Predacons in order to serve his original leader, the G1 version of Megatron. For some comparisons, here we've got Beast Ravage compared next to Beast Wars Megatron, and the scale is actually pretty spot on to what we saw in the show. Of course, in Season 2 of Beast Wars, Megatron did have a slightly different look, but I do believe the scale was basically the same, so it was definitely a good choice to keep Ravage as a deluxe. And just for the fun of it, here we've got him compared next to the Eartherized version of Soundwave, just so you can see how those two figures stack up. He's definitely quite a big deluxe, which is something that I wasn't really expecting. And here for another comparison, of course, we'll bring out the Kingdom Deluxe class Cheetor, just so that you guys can see how these fare. Now, you can see that he is actually a lot bigger than Cheetor, not only in terms of height, but actually in terms of how broad he is. So as mentioned beforehand, he definitely does feel like a small Voyager. And in regards to reused parts, you can see the legs are exactly the same as Cheetor, and also the actual Jaguar legs that we'll see in Beast form are the same as the Cheetah legs that we got here on this figure. But everything else is brand new. You can see the differences there in the wrists. This is completely different when in comparison to this, as of course this has got this piece, and the tail is not removable like it was here on Kingdom Cheetor, so the engineering too is also a little different, but definitely a very good mold to actually utilize for some of the components of this guy. And to be fair, I actually think he looks really awesome. So transformation here for Beast Ravage honestly is actually rather sophisticated, especially where the upper torso is concerned. The engineering is basically 100% brand new, and there are some really cool tricks that I actually cannot wait to show you guys on how he actually converts. Sadly, the lower legs in my opinion are a little lazy. They are the same as Cheetor's, and I would have loved for them to have actually taken the conversion from Tigertron, as that probably would have have made this guy a solid 10 out of 10, but he's still pretty decent as it is. So to begin with, you're going to want to turn your attention here to the wrists. Just rotate these until they do in fact soft tab into place. So just to demonstrate that, there is indeed a very soft, almost ratcheted joint that you're just going to want to rotate until it does click into place, which is really, really cool. You're then going to want to rotate at the bicep, and this tab will fill this slot. So just peg that in there. Of course, come to this side and repeat the same process. Very stiff joints on this guy. So just snap that there into place. We can then take the main body, pull this section forwards, which is a step that I was not expecting at all. We can then take the Jaguar head, pull the next section out, and then turn our attention here to these pieces, detach this slot from this tab and just bring this forwards and repeat the same process here. We're then going to want to take these, fold these in, and you may be able to see that there are in fact some tiny tabs. These are going to slide into some of the hollow slots that we've got here on the back of the actual bicep. So snap that there into place, and of course repeat the same process. Bring these legs and straighten them all the way out in order to allow for clearance, as the arms are in fact going to completely fill in the entire back section, which I've got to be honest and say is a step that I just was not expecting, and it works so well. Well done Takara and Hasbro, that is excellent. We're then going to want to bring these arms here forwards, then turn your attention to the legs, and it is essentially just Cheetor's conversion. So fold the feet in, bring these sections back, and repeat the same process here. Just fold that in, come here to the back and just angle the knee joints out just like so, straighten everything up, and then finally here for the neck you can see we've got some tiny little tabs that this is actually going to slot underneath. So just snap that there into place, and there you've essentially got Covert Agent Ravage fully transformed up into what Takara and Hasbro are calling the Jaguar mode. And I've got to be honest and say that despite this being inaccurate, it's actually not a bad beast mode for the character at all. Now if I just very quickly bring in the accessories, these are supposed to store here on the thighs, and I guess you could also use that weapon storage for robot mode. I'll be sure to post some images so that you guys can see how that does look, but they do just tab here into the back, which I actually don't think looks too bad. The black does help to cover up the silver, but you can see we've got the same bot mode head there, which looks really awesome in this particular mode. You can see the fur texture and detail, which is scattered all the way throughout the back of the figure. That looks so well, and the fact that these are created out of the arms, honestly, to me is mind-blowing, especially for a figure of this scale. I think that's so well done. And you can see here that same fur texture detail applied here for the upper section of the legs, as well as here for the back legs, and you can even see some lovely sculpt work going on here for the tail. Now in regards to his articulation, we've got a really awesome ball joint here at the neck, so this can look left to right to a fantastic degree, as well as look down. Sadly, it can't really look up all that much, but still, that's a great range of motion. We can open and close the jaw. Same articulation as Cheetor, where these arms are concerned, so they can hinge forwards and backwards, out to the sides. Hinge joint here at where I presume the knee would be, as well as a ball joint here at the toe. We do get the waist joint, which you can actually utilize here for this mode. Back legs can also hinge forwards and backwards, bend at the knee, as well as bend here at the lower section, and a ball joint here at the foot. And finally, the tail can in fact be lowered and raised to your own personal desire. So overall, definitely not a bad beast mode, but I know that many of you, at least myself, will be forever keeping Covert Agent Ravage in his robot mode. Here for a beast mode Ravage size comparison, we've got both the G1 Retro reissue compared next to Covert Agent Ravage, and you can just see the scale in between these figures. I just thought that this would be a nice comparison, but of course the comparison that you guys are probably most wanting to see is how he stacks up when compared next to Cheetor. Now you can see that upon first glance for beast mode, they actually look very similar, but I will be honest and say that, as mentioned beforehand, the main torso is completely brand new. Now the legs are a carryover, which is why he looks slightly more similar to Cheetor in this mode, but honestly I couldn't really see the point of them re-sculpting the legs, as 9 times out of 10 they probably would have turned out pretty similar to these. So the reuse doesn't bother me at all. I wish that maybe they could have done something slightly funky here with the thighs. If maybe they could have added a few additional panels for you to make this actually go black in beast mode, that would have been awesome. But nevertheless, you can see in regards to the head sculpt, they are completely brand new. The torso is completely brand new. Just flipping it here to the underside, you can see how the arms are completely stored for Covert Agent Ravage when in comparison to them being on show here for Cheetor, but the back legs are exactly the same, and the tails are also a complete brand new sculpt. So definitely a lot new going on here with Ravage when in comparison to Cheetor, but as mentioned beforehand, robot mode is definitely what's selling it for me. And so some final thoughts for this year's Transformers 2021 Pulsecon exclusive. Overall, it's definitely a really solid set, a set which has turned out a lot better than I was expecting, judging from some of those first in-hand images, and a set which is definitely one that I would highly recommend recommend to any diehard Beast Wars fan. I think the presentation of the box art is by far one of the best we've ever seen, and the fact that they didn't apply any twisty ties or sellotape to the actual card insert is a really nice touch on Hasbro and Takara's part. It means that we can actually safely remove it and keep it, and it looks really awesome. The graphic is fantastic, and I love the attention to detail. It looks very faithful to what we saw from the episode in Beast Wars when we actually do go inside Ravage's ship, and of course he's got Megatron as prisoner. But setting the insert off to the side, the actual Covert Agent Ravage itself is a really nice figure. Initially I expected it to be a very heavy retool of Kingdom Cheetor, however the figure is mostly brand new components, especially where the upper torso is concerned. I would have loved for them to have given him complete brand new tooling for the legs, but I just imagine that probably would have been more hassle than it's actually worth, and to be fair, it looks fairly accurate to what we saw in the show, so I can't really complain all that much. I think the paint looks really awesome. The shade of black they've used for the main colour of plastic is really well done, and I also think his accessories are super cool. His conversion, especially where the torso is concerned, is very genius. I love how the arms do in fact become the top part of the Jaguar mode. That is just so awesome, and for the most part it looks decent. Of course it's not accurate to the show, as he did in fact actually transform into a cassette, but to get this very beast-like looking robot to convert into a cassette tape, I think that it would have been near enough impossible. And in regards to the actual G1 Retro reissue of Ravage, I think is a really nice touch, especially considering that this Beast Ravage doesn't convert into a cassette tape. You can essentially have both of these modes on display, and it's a really nice nod to the episode, as of course the actual Beast Wars version of Ravage is just G1 Ravage reformatted and sent through time in order to pursue the Predacons and the Maximals, and then he realizes that he's in fact a Decepticon forever and that he doesn't want anything to do with the Predacons. So it's overall just a really nice set. I personally really like it. Of course it is slightly overpriced, but aren't all of these Hasbro Pulsecon exclusives, so I guess that's just something that you're just going to have to expect with these particular releases. Is it as good as the Quintesson Pit of Judgment? Definitely not. It is a slight downgrade, but it's not on the same magnitude as that set. That was comprised of, I believe, 5 figures, whereas we're only really getting 2 here. But that's not to take anything away from the set. I personally am super happy, and as mentioned beforehand, if you're a fan of Beast Wars or you're a fan of the Kingdom line so far and you get the opportunity to pick this guy up, I would definitely recommend that you jump on it sooner rather than later, as no doubt he'll sell out almost instantly and then go for astronomical prices on the aftermarket. I would love to know down in the comment section below on what you guys think of this particular set. Will you be picking it up? And also be sure to let me know on what you think of the review. I thank you all for watching, and until my next video, I'll see you then. Thanks for watching.